help. See all the ways you can support KSJE by going to our website at ksje.com/support. This is 90.9 FM, KSJE, Farmington, New Mexico.
Hi, I'm Tracy Hales-Vass, writer, retired professor of creative writing, and founder of One Book, One Community. I now host Right on Four Corners every Wednesday, 10:30 to 11, when I'll talk to local and regional authors. So please join me Wednesdays here on 90.9 FM, KSJE, Farmington.
Tune into Turntable Taxi on KSJE Saturday nights at 8 o'clock. Each week, we select a musical style and play 78s, 45s, and 33 RPM records. Some of our themes will include swing music, blues, heart-wrenching torch songs, early rock and roll, girl groups, soul, and R&B.
Sunny days and cool nights, mostly sunny skies, 86 for a high today in Farmington, but down to 48 tonight. Sunshine Friday, 88 for a high, 89 and sunny on Saturday, overnight lows in the mid-50s. KSJE is supported by San Juan Regional Medical Center, your community hospital with a rich heritage that dates back to before New Mexico was a state. We've been improving the health of the Four Corners since 1910. As a nonprofit hospital, San Juan Regional Medical Center is a values-driven organization. We strive to deliver on our mission to personalize health care and create vitality and enthusiasm in healing. We are here for you when you need us, offering a comprehensive range of inpatient, outpatient, and emergency care services. (8:36) KSJE, you're listening to the Scott Michlin Morning Program. Good morning, everyone, from our visual radio studio here at San Juan College, and welcome to those of you who are watching us this morning on Facebook and YouTube. My guest this morning, Warren Unsicker, is here. We will be speaking with him in just a moment, but first we want to talk a little bit about the weather that is going to be happening today, of course. Here's a live picture for our viewers of San Juan College at 8:37 in the morning. Sunshine, but it is a bit cool this morning, as it has been the last few days and will be for the next couple of days. Sunshine in the forecast, though, for today. The high temperature this afternoon should be about 86 degrees, 49 overnight. And tomorrow's high 88 and 89 on Saturday. Right now outside 57 degrees at our studios here at San Juan College. Winds are out of the east at 4 miles per hour. As I mentioned, my guest this morning, Warren Unsicker, is here from Four Corners Economic Development. Mr. Unsicker, good morning once again.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you for being with us. And you're also working on Nations Collaboration, which is the Navajo Nation and others, I would assume, for maybe some economic development projects here, right?
Right. And so we've been working on trying to form some more tightly knit relationships, especially with the Navajo Nation, our neighbors right to the west here, and trying to figure out ways in which we can collaboratively make some bigger things happen, similar to the Four Corners Future Forum initiative, but more specifically to someone that we've been working with for decades and trying to figure out ways to work more collaboratively together. And right. So we've got a small committee of folks, and thankfully we also have some representation on our board as well that's helping us kind of bridge that gap and start making some headway to be more collaborative. And so we're very grateful to be also working with some of their corporations that they have. The Navajo Nation has outside entities that they've created to create business, to invest in things. One of those is Dene Development Corporation. We've been meeting with them a couple times now, both here and out in Albuquerque, just to talk about some of the projects that they do. They do a lot of government contracting. They look for opportunities to work with raw products and provide them to the federal government. And so, there's some opportunities there. And so we've been trying to strategize and come up with some ways to capitalize and work on that to help them accomplish their goal, and likewise maybe create some jobs in this area. So.
Right, interesting. And for a lot of folks who aren't directly involved with the Navajo Nation or the Navajo Nation government, it seems to be a very complicated structure, but
Sure.
but not necessarily. And they have a lot of dollars, I guess, that they can use for these types of things.
Right. And the Navajo Nation government is a rather large entity. They have a lot of moving parts in that realm. But like I said, they've spun off some entities that are kind of operating outside of the government structure and working more on a business level. Another one of those is the Natani Corporation that's just been recently formed, and that's in the process of getting its funding and everything under it and getting going on its mission. But Danae's been working for a while, and so they look to try and find opportunities to invest in specific types of businesses, and likewise in trying to create government contracts that they can utilize to create business for the nation. So, again, it's kind of that win-win. If we can help them create some business, and it'll create jobs, and it'll create income, and so it's all to the benefits.
And I guess maybe NTEC would be an example of something like this that you're talking about, that's taken over the mine, the Navajo mine.
Yeah, Navajo Nation the Navajo Transitional Energy Company.
Yes,
I'm getting my acronyms all mixed up in my head. But they own the mine. They have an operator that operates it for them, and they also now own a portion of the plant itself, the APS power plant. Mm-hmm. I believe it's about 7%. So that's an exciting kind of synergy for them to have now.
Right.
Benefits the region as well, because now we have a little bit of security in that plant to a degree. And I know that APS just announced the finalization of their new retrofit, which they spent I think $650 million on. Took them a long time to get to that point. Processes like that take time,
right.
And but now it's come to fruition, and it's probably going to be one of the cleanest plants in the nation. It's interesting. They still have, to a certain degree, the same amount of power coming out of there, but that two-stack configuration is now pumping into one filtered column and stack, and it's just a little poof of smoke coming out the top, or not smoke, actually, it's steam. Poof of steam coming out of the top of that thing. So it's significantly decreased any emissions that were coming out of it before, now that they've installed those retrofits.
Interesting. Well, and I know there was a time when we thought the power plants were always going to be part of the landscape here, but that can't be taken for granted any longer in this day and age.
Right. And we continue to fight that battle, so to speak, of looking at ways to either innovate or create a soft landing, or possibly even mitigate the closures of one or another of the plants.
Right, and of course P&M is the other elephant in the room on the other side of the street room, and and my feeling is that maybe, I know last year at the legislature there were some bills that were introduced to try to maybe help in that transition, and P&M was concerned about lost assets, or stranded assets, I think is the term.
Right,
and perhaps with more money now for the state legislature, they may be more willing to look at some of these bills that may cost the state a bit of money,
potentially
in the spring for the next legislative session than they were this past year. I don't know. God forbid I try to predict what's going to happen in Santa Fe. I will not win on that one.
No, and we are monitoring that closely and working with partners in that realm to try and make sure that we understand what's being proposed, and if something new needs to be proposed, or what needs to be done to ensure that we have our voice heard, so to speak.
Right. Because I thought some of the conversations last time was to maybe ensure that even if P&M does pull out of San Juan Generating Station, which they intend to do, that site could still be used for power generation in the future. And there were some laws that were saying they didn't want to, that wouldn't be allowed.
There was some kind of poison pill legislation that was thrown in to say, you can only produce so many tons of CO2 or something a year, which were I think some of them were below even a natural gas plant's production of CO2. So I mean, they were so low that it would preclude any future production of power short of solar or wind in that site, essentially. And so we just have to monitor closely and make sure things like that aren't being slid in and causing issue in the future.
Right.
And likewise, to evaluate, like I said, that soft landing piece of the funding perspective. Last time I think it was like $19 million that was put forth on the table. Hopefully that would, like you said, would be more now that the state has a little more wiggle room in its budget and coffers, and so we'll see kind of what comes to bear on that.
Right.
So,
interesting. Before we run out of time this morning, Mr. Unsicker, I know we also want to talk about the Downtown Resiliency program that's happening in Farmington with the upcoming major renovation, redevelopment of Main Street in the corridor there.
Yes, absolutely. So a group of resource partners from the Quality Center for Business have banded together to provide some crucial educational opportunities to small businesses, specifically toward the downtown, but it's open to the public and any business, any small business that wants to come down and learn how to better manage their finances, better market themselves, better work through, setting up their store and inventory and various different other things, can take advantage of this ongoing series of classes. There is one happening on Monday of this coming week on the 17th, and so I believe that's from 8 to 10 a.m. It's going to be, I believe, down at the HQ in downtown. So
right. Okay.
they'll be held downtown, but they're open to anyone and anyone in the outlying communities too. So Bloomfield, Daztec, Kirtland, you all come, so to speak, Shiprock,
right.
whomever, to take advantage of these things, and we're already trying to evaluate other ways we can simulcast those to things like the hub out in Aztec or to a community center in Bloomfield, et cetera,
sure.
to try and get the word out broader, because we know there are businesses out there in all communities that need that little bit of push or education to help them be more effective in running their business, and likewise be more effective in garnering more customers to come in their doors. So
interesting. And the topics that they're discussing at these meetings
again
go from
they vary from right. I believe this is creating your fall marketing plan. So this is kind of in preparation for the Christmas season, essentially.
Big time of year.
Brace yourself,
retailers.
It's coming. Yeah, exactly. Right. Because one of the things they garnered out of the survey they put out was that I believe a good close to 60, 70, 80% of the revenues for some of these businesses came during the Christmas season.
Okay.
And so that's the time to be putting all your marketing dollars to work and making sure that you're getting the word out so that you rise to the top and have people coming and grabbing their Christmas gifts there. So that's what I believe this initial one is, and then they'll have ongoing topics coming up in the future that, again, deal with things like financing and with or financial literacy and working with inventory and working on marketing plans and things to that effect. So, I mean, broad breadth of information. This first one is free. I believe they'll start charging for them a nominal fee in the future, but this is just kind of that first foray to get people to the table and start the ball rolling. So.
Okay. Well, folks can certainly check it out and see and use this advice. And I would imagine, again, with the fall marketing plan and fall business plan for retailers in our new internet age, it's important to kind of know the best techniques to compete against online sales and online retailers. And we are in this digital world. And so it's important that the small businesses downtown and other businesses realize that and learn about the strategies about that. Because I know there are still a lot of customers who would like to support small businesses. They just need to know about them, I think.
Absolutely. And I mean, that is crucial to our economy in general and is raising the awareness of small businesses. We have to support our own, and more of that dollar stays in the community too, just because, they go home and they, are putting those dollars to work in their household. They're giving it to local employees. I mean, it circulates more in our economy than some of the larger big boxes, not to discount the big boxes that we have here,
right.
But, that's, some of that's going to corporate and some of that's going to a place like Missouri and California and various different other places other than here. And so the local businesses keep those dollars here more directly, and so it's a direct benefit to the region. So.
Right. Certainly, we know a lot of the gross receipts taxes and the positive impact it has on communities like Farmington and others and elsewhere. Actually, when you buy it locally, but you're saying when it's spent at a big box store, some of that profit goes out of state, out of the region to those corporate headquarters, wherever those are.
Sure, just by nature, yeah.
Right, but if you're spending it at a mom and pop store, that money would stay local, and that's the idea.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, that is just by nature of the beast, of so to speak, is if it's going to a bigger corporation that has a headquarters or an operation elsewhere, some of that money is going back there.
Right.
And so that's just how that functions. So, but yeah, and so shop local is always things. And I know right now, then the legislature, they're trying to work on a kind of a brick and mortar support tax bill for online sales.
Okay.
Because right now, I believe that we do have an agreement with like Amazon's and such,
They're charging,
but it's
right.
just for state tax. So it doesn't give all the
Doesn't trickle back down to the localities.
Doesn't trickle down to the localities. And so that is a bit of an issue. And that's something I've been fighting for years now, because I've worked with other communities out there in Broken Arrow. We had that same problem. We didn't have that agreement with Amazon and others. Basically, the function was if they didn't have a physical brick and mortar presence, so a distribution center or something located in there,
state,
they didn't have to worry about it. It was
Right.
a non-issue. They didn't have to charge any tax, period.
Gotcha.
So myself, the International Council of Shopping Centers, an agency I belong to, have been lobbying and pushing on that, trying to make sure that they take closer look at the fact that bricks and mortar retail are struggling with all the online sales.
Right, and it does add up, even though it's just percentages, tiny percentages on the dollar, basically, of what would go to these local entities. But I know it's millions and millions of dollars for
Right.
even communities like Farmington.
Oh,
I think.
absolutely, yeah. And I'm pretty sure we're probably all a little guilty of shopping online. You know, it's especially when it's a specific brand that you just got to have, and you don't necessarily have that store here. Then, but yeah, no. If you've got the opportunity to buy it here, take a closer look and make sure you've vetted all your options. And
Very true.
so.
Well, Mr. Unsicker, we are quickly running out of time, but I do want to ask you one final thing, because we haven't talked since the city of Farmington passed the major tax initiative.
Yes.
Which I thought was very interesting, because some of that is earmarked for economic development
Right.
and things along that line. And I don't know, in your experience, are there many communities that have done such a thing to get a stream of money working towards economic development as their economies are changing?
Absolutely, and they come in different forms. I know that in the city of Broken Arrow, they passed a TIF, which I know that in this state it's a little different. It's actually a TID here. Basically, it was a
there you go with your acronyms.
I know,
Okay. All right.
tax increment financing or tax increment district.
I
And
see.
basically, what that means is that the city bonded against future growth. And they said, we're going to bond against the future growth of both sales and property tax, and use those monies now,
Okay.
and then pay them off with the increases that investment
growth will bring, I
cause.
suppose,
Exactly. So that's what we did in our downtown, and we also did it to help build a building for a major industry in that community. But here, this is another way of doing it. It was just doing a direct tax that is specifically earmarked toward those initiatives. And so now is the time to get creative with how do we implement those things to have the maximum impact. Is it infrastructure? Is it investing in specific business entities and processes? What are the things that we can do to maximize bringing attention to this region and bringing more business to the area? And so looking forward to working with the city on that tool. It's a valuable tool, but it's one we have to make sure we put some checks and balances on to make sure that it doesn't just kind of freewheel away to little pet projects here and there. It needs to be very focused and very keen to what the impacts are going to be and what the return on investment is going to be.
Sure.
And so that's where, if it is truly, for economic development purposes, how do we effectively make that happen? And so, some of that's including like clawbacks if they don't perform in creating those jobs, or
Right.
investing the amount of money that they said they would, or creating the building that they said they would do, having some clawbacks to protect the city and make sure that they get what they actually paid, quote unquote, paid for. So.
Right. But certainly seems to me to be a forward-thinking
Absolutely.
strategy
Absolutely.
for a community kind of at the crossroads of its economic future.
Very much so. And so, no, I commend the council members for taking that bold step, because it is something that, especially in a region that is, we've had our fair share of struggles, but this is a great way to take a proactive step forward and figure out how we can affect our future.
Really trying to take our own control of our own destiny, I suppose.
Precisely. Yeah,
very
absolutely.
good. Warren Unsicker, always a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you very
You
much.
as well. Thank you.
Good to have you here. That's Warren Unsicker, Executive Director of Four Corners Economic Development, my guest here on KSJE. Back with more in just a moment. This is KSJE. The time is 8:53. KSJE is supported by the new Performing Arts Cooperative of the Southwest, producing programs for a growing number of arts organizations, including the San Juan Symphony in Farmington and Durango, Third Avenue Arts, Durango Choral Society, and Southwest Civic Winds in Durango. Advertising for the fall and winter season programs is being accepted until September 14th. Find out more at 970-247-3004. Performing Arts Cooperative of the Southwest.